Hello, welcome to the second lesson in this unit. Today we're looking at real-world applications for unit rate. So yesterday you went through, did some of the homework, mastered the concept of unit rate. Now today I want you to be able to apply unit rate to real-world applications and solve problems as they arise. All right. So first of all, let's just look at the bottom, or the first question here. How do we use rate to determine cost? So they're all linked together. We have cost is how much you have to pay. How much to pay. We have the amount, how much you want. And your unit rate. And that's the cost per item. Alright, so how do they link together? There isn't an equation or formula for this, but I'm going to arrange it in a triangle so it makes it a little bit easier for you to use. Alright, I know math teachers who are watching this will cringe a little bit, but because we don't have the algebra skills, and this is speaking to my students right now, you don't have the algebra skills. I still want you to be able to calculate these different values depending on the situation. So the triangle allows you an effective method for determining an unknown. Okay? So what's the triangle look like? In the top of this triangle, I'm going to put cost. All right, and that's how much you have to pay. So the explanation's right beside it. Then I'm going to construct my triangle. I'm going to go across here, down here. Amount, that's how much you desire, how much you need. It's going to go in this corner of the triangle. And finally, in the other corner, we're going to put unit rate. So those are the three items I just listed there. So that triangle then tells us two things. Okay? If I want to find cost, then I would have to multiply amount and unit rate together. So if there's a vertical bar, like the one I'm coloring in red, you are then going to use multiplication. So you would multiply unit rate and amount together, and the result would be cost. All right? If, for example, you wanted to find amount or unit rate, then if you're going to use cost and you're going to use this horizontal bar, the horizontal bar tells us to use division. So I'm going to do a couple of examples that use this. All right, so I'm not going to just leave it at that. So you're going to see how to use this or how it works. Nice little efficient method for us to solve for any of the unknowns that are asked in a particular question. All right, so we'll come back to that in one sec. So let's do the first example here, which doesn't really relate to that triangle yet. Okay, ever go to the grocery store to buy ketchup? Probably not. You usually send mom and dad to do that for you. But what do mom and dad see when they get to the store? They see the itty-bitty little grandma bottle for 250 mils, and they're charging $1.99 for the bottle. There is then the reasonable 500 milliliter bottle for $2.99. And then the big honking bottle, 1,000 milliliters, for $9.99. Now, advertising and so on and so forth, most of you are probably thinking bigger is always better. You have to be careful because now advertisers are thinking, okay, everyone thinks bigger is better, so I'm going to switch that up on them. So you got to be very, very careful. So when I do the analysis here, we want to find the unit rate. So again, I want to know the cost per milliliter of ketchup. So I'm going to take the first one, the $1.99, and put it over 250 milliliters, and then I can find that cost. So $1.99 divided by 250. Now, my calculator is going to go funny, and yours is probably going to go funny when you do the calculation. So what I'm going to do is, let's convert it to cents, okay? Let's convert our dollars to cents. So $1.99 is really 199 cents. What this does is it makes it a little bit easier to compare the values. All right, so we're going to drop the dollars and we're going to go down to cents. Now when you use your calculator, 199 divided by 250 is a little bit better. The calculator gives you an answer that makes a little bit more sense. No pun intended. All right, so if I bought the granny bottle, it would cost me 0.796 cents per milliliter. All right. If I would buy the middle reasonable one, so that is $2.99, so 299 cents, and that's for 500 milliliters. Then when we do that math, we get 0.598 cents per milliliter. And then finally, $9.99 is 999 cents for 1,000 milliliters. And we do that math, 999 divided by 1,000. You get 0.999 per milliliter. So now they start playing a funny game with us when it comes to advertising and marketing. Because so long we've been programmed, bigger is better, bigger is cheaper, sometimes they're going to sneak this past us. And in this case, the bigger bottle, 0.999 cents per milliliter, is actually the most expensive of the options. So to counteract that, the government, so first of all, I guess I better answer the question here. So therefore, which one would I choose? I would choose the middle bottle there. Choose the 500 milliliter bottle because it's a better deal. Now in grocery stores, as an aside, if you look at the price tag, all right, it will have 500 milliliters of milliliter ketchup. So this is on the tag, and it's going to give you the price, $2.99. So this is the shopping tag that's on the shelves in the grocery store. In the bottom corner, they will provide you with a unit rate. So I'll see if I can write that in there, small. There, it goes off the tag a little bit. That actually exists. The next time you go into a grocery store, take a look in the bottom right corner of the tag. That is a unit rate. It tells you how much per milliliter. So these three values that I just calculated would appear on all three tags. Okay? So all three tags would tell you the price. If you look in the bottom right corner, you would see those three unit rates, which allows you to make the best choice or the best deal. So actually the 500 milliliter bottle currently is the best deal. And that could be because it's on sale, they have an excess, a number of 500 milliliter bottles that they're trying to get rid of, they're coming close to due date, whatever the reason is. So sometimes the biggest doesn't necessarily provide you with the best deal. Okay? So keep that in mind. All right, my second example today. Which type of trim is the cheapest? Now this is matching up with our theme. We've been looking at our subdivision project, so we're going to tie the subdivision project in for one more unit. This allows us then to incorporate a little bit more information or a little bit more skills into actually designing a house, or the basics, I guess. So here are some options. So trim is what goes around the bottom of your walls or the top of the walls. All right, so trim just finishes off your house. So you have some options here. So which type of trim is the cheapest? And this is what happens. You'll go to certain stores. If you go to something like Rona, or you go to Moffett & Powell, or to Home Depot, sometimes they'll be sold in 8-foot pieces because that's what they have in stock. If you go to a store that produces it, okay, so if you go to Bruce Flooring, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones in the area, they will give you a price per foot, all right? And then sometimes they have small chunks, so 4-foot pieces, or maybe they ran long pieces depending on the thickness or the size of the trim. So what this is an absolute nightmare for you to compare what type of trim is the best price. Now, for the most part, you're probably going to already pick the flooring, so you're going to pick a certain trim anyway, but for argument's sake, which is the best deal here? Which trim provides you with the best deal? So let's look at them. So the only way to do this is to break this down. So for example, the oak, $5.99, and it looks like everything is in feet except for the second, or everything is in feet, so we're going to do a comparison in feet. So we're going to take the $5.99, and we're going to divide that by 8. So 5.99. divided by 8, we find out that the oak trim costs about 75 cents, or $0.75 per linear foot. All right, moving to the pine. It's already in the form that we want, so I'm just going to write it down here. It's 0.79 per foot, so that one's kind of nice. Maple. The maple is $6.99 a foot. Sorry, $6.99 for a 12-foot piece. So that translates to 58 cents roughly. So 58 cents per foot. And finally, beech. not overly common. And it is $2.29 for a 4-foot piece. So they must have had some odd lengths left that they trimmed off. So 2.29, divide that by 4, and we end up with about 57 cents a foot. So there are your 4 types of available trim. So typically, I would be shocked if pine was at 79 cents per foot, because usually your pine is your best deal. However, in this case, some people have got a markup going here. All right. So the best deal then, when you look at your 4 options, the best deal is in fact the beech, and maple is pretty close. So probably go with maple because it's a little bit richer looking. But anyway, so therefore, beech has the lowest unit rate, therefore the best deal. All right. Now, just as an extension here, there we go. What happens if you need? How much would it cost? How much? Get it? Would? No, you don't get it. That's fine. How much would it cost for, let's say when you do your house, when you finally draw out the floor plan, how much is it going to cost for, let's say, 1,200 feet of trim? So you need 1,200 feet of trim. So I'm going to bring down, you'll notice the triangle appeared in the top corner. I'm going to bring it down here. So we're looking for cost. So I want to know the cost. All right, how do I get cost? Well, according to my triangle, I would have to take the amount and multiply it by the unit rate. And that's how the triangle would work. So amount. So the triangle just tells you what operation to follow. So how much? I want 1,200 feet of the beech trim, and we calculated it to be $0.57 a foot. So when you punch that through the calculator, we already know the operation from the triangle. It's going to cost $684 for the trim. Okay, so just a bit of an extension. So that tells you, again, that triangle, so this is all extra here, might come up in the homework though. The cost, we just come from that triangle. It tells you what operations to perform and so on and so forth. So if you have any questions with the homework, please make sure you come and ask. Very important because you're going to be using these skills for the project.